It's Super Bowl week, and the Jets did some hiring, and we're going to talk about it next.
Hey, New York Jet fans from all around the world. Welcome to Laugh Through the Turbulence, a New York Jets podcast. The show that delivers you all your Jets content. Here are your hosts, John, Adam, and Monty. All the best to the New York Jet fans. Jets, 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 go Jets.
Thunder.
Yeah, I know. It's such a great fucking song, man. And the Jets just made it.
Jets don't deserve it, man.
They don't deserve it.
Hey, listen, I'm kind of starting to like what they're doing in this offseason so far.
I gotta agree. I mean, still extremely cautiously optimistic, but yeah, I definitely gotta agree with that.
Yeah, me too.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk
but listen,
about it.
before we start, we have a celebrity in the house. Our guy Monty is going to be on the Kelly Clarkson show. Monty, why don't you give us like a minute and a half synopsis of what's going on?
Yeah. I mean, pretty much, I'm a big comic collector, nerd, big Captain America fan, part of some groups online, through kind of a roundabout sequence of events where, I was friends with the admins of these groups, and they put me in touch with someone who was looking for a person to be on the show that's a Captain America fan, and then I knew people that worked on the show, and it all just, universe was universing, it all kind of came together. And I was invited on, and I got to say a little spiel in front of the camera, got to meet Anthony Mackie, Kelly Clarkson, Black Thought from The Roots. They gave me my own dressing room for a little while. I had a makeup person. It was like I got to be a celebrity for a day. It was real fun, real cool. But yeah, check it out. Kelly Clarkson's episode on February the 10th. Should be around 2 or 3 p.m. Eastern. But yeah, check it out. Whatever's local to you, it'll be on NBC.
And you were not allowed to promote the podcast on the show.
You'll see it, man. Everything was extremely they're super...
They probably would have cut you out anyway because it's pre-recorded, right?
Oh, if I said, yeah, exactly. That's the other thing too, is it's pre-recorded. They record 2 episodes a day.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Interesting.
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
Good. Very good. Well, there he is, our celebrity, most famous person on the podcast.
It's just like basically when I went to go see Jerry Springer a bunch of times. They basically record multiple on the same day, and then you get to go across the street and go see Steve Wilco.
Yeah, rest in peace, Jerry Springer. By the way, he's a cool dude. Actually,
yeah.
I saw a documentary on him. I actually like him a lot more as a person.
He was a
chill ass dude.
Yeah, he was chill, and he was a mayor of Cincinnati.
Yeah, he was mayor of Cincinnati. Yeah,
he basically he got caught with prostitutes, right, as the mayor, right, and then he was just like, you know what, I'm gonna lean all the way down. I'm gonna bring trailer park trash onto this fucking show, and you know what, it's gonna be great. There's gonna be trannies. There's gonna be fucking cheating. There's gonna be a lot of cheating, really.
And he became the hero to Trailer Trash TV all over.
Fun story, quick about Jerry Springer. My best friend from college. He has the tape somewhere. He was actually him and his girlfriend at the time. They were on the show as interviewers, and they give you the scenarios, right? So it was they picked them out of the crowd one day. They were there for the show, and they were like, "Hey, do you guys actually want to be on the show?" And then they gave him this whole. It was hysterical. He was.
Oh, that's great.
Supposed to have cheated on her with a tranny during their during his bachelor party. So it was a transvestite. I think it was crazy.
I was in there with Shannon, and we were in the audience, and Jerry shook my hand on the way to the stage, because we had good seats and all that. Because Shannon was fucking hot as shit,
That's cool.
They put us pretty, and then I remember there was this woman there was 2 strippers fighting over a man or whatever. And basically this stripper in the crowd was like, "You guys are totally day shift. I'm nighttime shift." Showed her fucking tits, and it was fucking great. Everyone was like, "Yeah, Jerry."
Yeah, it was crazy. And it was so funny. in college, I was in the audience at the Ricky Lake show years ago, and they were like, "This is not the Jerry Springer show. Do not react to anything that happens." And people were fighting. It was crazy. I was like, you just sit there.
Yeah, those shows are wild, but yeah, it was cool, man.
Congrats to Kelly Clarkson for doing Ozempic or whatever it was. Totally Ozempic. Every celebrity's on
it. That's why they all look great now.
Yeah.
Remember, boys and girls, you're not ugly. You're just poor.
That's exactly it. That's
Lizzo,
exactly it.
You know.
Look at Tom Brady before and after.
Yeah. The spice. Those are a lot of South Park quotes there. But anyway, let's go through the hires. So we have, I think, just the 4 hires to talk about, right? The first one I want to go through is Tanner Engstrat, who's the OC. Basically, this guy's been following Ben Johnson for a while, right? And we were actually debating this because there was a tweet out there saying that he was following Ben Johnson around. Why didn't Ben Johnson take him with him to Detroit? Why didn't he just get promoted by Campbell in Detroit? And why did he go with Aaron Glenn? And those really were the only 3 scenarios that he had available to him. And I guess he was the passing game coordinator before this. Is that right?
Passing game coordinator.
Yep. Passing game coordinator.
Okay. So first off, what are your thoughts on this hire? Right. And just like everything that kind of goes with it.
Yeah, so you jump in first.
Yeah, go ahead. I know you want to say.
Are we matching, Adnan?
Yeah, I think we're matching pretty much exactly.
Stand up real quick.
Yeah. We are matching.
Mine will be here in a week.
Yeah,
bullshit. There we go.
No, it's true. It's ordered. It's ordered already.
Green or black?
Green and a black hat. Exactly what you got on right now.
Good.
So yeah, quickly to jump into Engstrand here. So one of the questions that I had, and I know we had discussed it a little bit in our group chat prepping for the show and everything, is why did Dan Campbell just not promote Engstrand, right? He's been in the building. They promoted internally for the defensive coordinator role. So why didn't they promote him? And so to give a plug to where we got this information from, I listened to the Play Like a Jet podcast today. They do a great job. And Scott Mason from Play Like a Jet, they actually had Dave Burkett on from the Detroit Free Press, who covers the Lions. And he asked him that kind of specific question. Why did Engstrand basically get passed over for John Morton, who was a former Jets offensive coordinator and is now the offensive coordinator for the Lions. He was the passing game coordinator for the Broncos under Sean Payton. So to kind of paraphrase what he said is that the main reason for Morton being brought in is that Morton had a pre-existing relationship, obviously, with Campbell. He was the first passing game coordinator under Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell when they first got to Detroit. And he was there as part of the team that installed the offense for the very first time. So he has a very good understanding of the Ben Johnson way of doing things. And Tanner Engstrand comes from kind of a West Coast philosophy, which is a little bit different than what Ben Johnson runs. And so for continuity, they kind of wanted to bring in a guy like Morton, who basically will be running the same offense that Ben Johnson did. And with that familiarity and everything, Sean Payton coaching tree, that's why it looks like Morton was hired as opposed to Engstrand, which I think at the end of the day, regardless of that, it wasn't an indictment on Engstrand, more so than they wanted to keep the offense in place as close to possible as they could. And I think Engstrand is going to be a very good hire.
Yeah. So, I was kind of going to, touch on that too. I watched that. I did some research as well. And another thing was just also the level of experience that Morton had over Engstrand. Engstrand's actually never called a play in the NFL. So that's kind of what makes me a little nervous about him as a hire. I was going to lead with a quote, and the quote is that victory has a million fathers. And that's a quote that basically means that, whenever shit works out and shit's successful, there's no shortage of people to take credit for it or who will be attributed to it. And that's kind of what's happening at the Lions right now. That's why you're seeing their cabinet getting raided a bit, and people are trying to jump on them because people want any little piece of greatness that they can get. And the Lions have been a great team objectively over the past few seasons. Now, how much Engstrand was related to that or not, I don't know. But I do like the fact that at least we have Glenn and Engstrand together from the Lions. So that way, you know what I mean? Maybe pieces that, Glenn didn't remember or doesn't have, Engstrand might bring of that winning formula, because they do have a winning, successful formula over there, that they would like to recreate here, I think, in New York, just like, we've tried to do in the, with the Green Bay scenario. But, nevertheless, I think that it'll be, again, very cautiously optimistic about this one. I mean, again, first time play caller, but he does have that connection to Aaron Glenn. I think also what I was reading is that what's his name, Nick Caley from the Rams. I was reading, from multiple sources that that's who the Jets really wanted, but he had zero interest in us. So, this is not necessarily our, top of the line first hire guy that we wanted from the get-go, but he's a guy that is apparently good enough, and a guy that was apparently, vetted and probably okayed by 33rd team and all the advisors that we have helping out with the acquisition process. So that's what makes it good. Also what makes it a good hire, he's pretty young. He's 42 years old. He's he's got a modern offensive approach. He comes out of this Detroit system where they use a lot of motion. They know how to scheme players open, especially running backs, which is what we were having a lot of trouble with, especially with Breece Hall. Our loser, the last OC, Hackett, who should have been fired 2 years ago, runs that stagnant ass, boring, outdated offense that he runs that can barely get shit done. You know what I mean? And I think that he's had, kind of a meteoric rise too. And you don't have that, you know what I mean? Because he's only been with the Lions since 2020. So he only goes back a few years, and in that time he's shot up to where he's actually considered a legitimate candidate for OC. You know what I mean? Like, had they not had a chance to get Morton, he was the next guy up, but for all intents and purposes. So for him to go from, basically just a regular assistant back in 2020 to where he's at now, he must be doing something right. He must be absorbing what's around him. So, maybe he's one of those bright young stars and up and comers. But, we'll see. And another thing that remains to be seen is like what his take on the QB situation is. Like, are we going to stay with Rodgers? Like, is he going to push for someone who, maybe is a reclamation project, maybe like a Daniel Jones or someone like that? Or is he going to, want us to bring someone in new, regardless of, whatever we can get, even though our prospects this time around in the draft at QB are pretty much very, very low because, we don't have a high enough pick. And, are we going to waste draft capital on a sub first round grade QB? Probably not. Will he struggle to adjust like LaFleur did, or will his fresh ideas succeed? Time will tell. So again, very cautiously optimistic hire. But I guess it's about as good as we could hope to do, given the available talent.
Yeah. And it's funny that Mike LaFleur is doing just fine right now.
True.
And
Rams.
It's like on the Caley point, I mean, I think that might have been a part of it, right? LaFleur is on the Rams staff. I'm sure he was like, hey man, if I were you, yeah, I would not even, so I don't know. So I think it was probably more to do with that than him being like, I want no part of the Jets, you know?
Yeah. Okay. Last thing I'm want to say. It's interesting because it's a totally turnover of the staff. So like LaFleur, the only thing he could really say that was bad was ownership, right? If anything. But anyway, I want to just kind of give more background on Tanner real quick. So originally he was a college quarterback.
Yep.
He played with San Diego State for 2 years, and actually he technically could have gotten drafted the same year Aaron Rodgers did. He's 42, so he's basically Rodgers' age. He's a year older though, because I guess he was a senior at this time, and Rodgers came out as a junior, right? With that, so then after that, he was a graduate assistant at San Diego, not to be confused with San Diego State. Then he became the running backs coach after 2 years doing that. Then he was a quarterbacks coach for 2 years. Then he was the offensive coordinator at San Diego and still the quarterbacks coach till 2012. Then he was assistant head coach, offensive coordinator, and quarterbacks coach for 4 years with San Diego. So he's moved up, right? And then he was an offensive analyst with Michigan. So obviously a bigger program, right? Did that for a year. Then he was the OC for the DC Defenders, which is XFL. And then that's how he eventually landed, with the Lions, right? Going up the charts, right? And I think this is a good opportunity for him, right? Especially because if he could turn around the Jets offense as an OC, like he'll get hired pretty much as a head coach pretty quickly, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and part of me was thinking like, hey, what would be the best route? Because basically the name of the game for any of these coaches that are coordinators or whatever is to try and get to one of those head coaching positions, right? And the best path for it, right? Let's just say hypothetically, if you follow Ben Johnson, like Ben Johnson probably gets all the credit, right? And like maybe he doesn't even get involved or doesn't get to showcase his talents, calling plays and all that stuff, right? So maybe there's that, right? If he stays in the Lions, they're like, oh, it's the Lions, right? So maybe he sits there for a little while, right? But at least the Jets, it's probably the quickest rise to the top, and maybe there's some intrigue there going with Aaron Rodgers, right? Maybe he knows. I mean, I guess he has to kind of know what Aaron Rodgers looks like, right? He played. I mean, he didn't coach against him, but like he watched Aaron Rodgers 2 MVP seasons 2 times a year, right? In Detroit, right? So I don't know. I think it's an interesting hire. I don't think it's a bad hire. I don't know if it's a good hire. We're kind of in the same boat. I think we just don't know, right? We just don't know. I never knew about the guy until he kind of came up on the radar, right?
Yeah, I think what matters now is how much experience he gets paired with, because just looking at the other coaching hires, looking at what's been done, like Spielman, which I'm sure we're going to talk about. The Jets are definitely doing a good job, like with Steve Wilkes that we talked about last week. The Jets are doing a good job of pairing in or weaving in a lot of very experienced guys, mixed in with all this the young talent in the key positions, which was a big concern for me personally. So,
yeah,
what do we got offensively that's going to help him out?
Well, we could talk about the next hire that we have, which is Scott Turner, who's also 42 years old. Yeah. Interestingly enough, just like him. So, I mean, at least it's kind of young, which is kind of cool, right? And Scott Turner, I can give you the full history of him. He's Norv Turner's kid.
Yeah.
Norv Turner was pretty damn good. Not great as a coach, but pretty damn good with those Charger teams, right? He was there for a hot minute. Obviously, he was the interim offensive coordinator for Vegas last year. Before that, he was the passing game coordinator. And then he was with Washington football team. He was their OC. So I guess he got a downgrade after that, right? But he was the OC there for 3 years, right? And then after that, Carolina's quarterback coach in 18-19. Also a Michigan offensive analyst as well.
And he's called plays before, which is really important to me.
Yep, he's called plays before. Then he was a quarterbacks coach for Michigan, a wide receiver coach for Cleveland, a quality control coach for Carolina, Pittsburgh, I guess University of Pittsburgh. Yep, that's where he was, offensive. And then also he was an OC for a high school team.
Yeah. And I just want to see better situational football out of the Jets. So that's why I keep emphasizing play calling, because, knowing the right thing to do at the right time is super fucking important in the NFL, especially in today's league. The teams that, are really good versus the teams that are really bad, it's not so much that they put up so much more yards and points and whatever. It's that when it counts, they will succeed. And, the Jets, when it counted, kind of really didn't.
Yeah. And last thing I want to say about him real quick, he was a quarterback in high school and then a reserve on the UNLV team.
I think this is definitely an interesting hire. Someone, like you guys said, that has some play calling experience, which will help. And Monty, to your point, I think situational football is really important, but that's also, definitely play calling. But I think it's also just like organizational philosophy, right? Like you have to have a clear, concise plan for every scenario. And I just think the Jets last year and then the 13 years previous just have never had a cohesive and coherent plan as to how they're going to attack these certain situations, right? So, like, the more experience you get into these rooms, the better, which is why Wilkes was such an important hire, which is why you look at Turner pairing him with Engstrand, and then hopefully they'll bring somebody in a senior, offensive advisor role who can help them. Somebody, I mean, I would love it if it was someone like Doug Peterson, just come in, help the young guys and do something like that. So I think there's a lot of promise here with the young guys, but I would like to see someone with a lot of experience come in just to kind of help guide them, be a sounding board and things of that nature. But I do like the Turner hire, especially, with his pedigree. Like John said, Norv wasn't a great head coach, but he was an excellent offensive coordinator.
He ran a great offense. Absolutely.
Exactly.
North Turner offense was like a thing like that people lauded in the league. When North Turner was doing his thing.
He was the offensive coordinator for the Cowboys. He was the first one when they were lighting up the league in the 90s. So he's done a lot, and I think it's just a good pedigree to come from. So I think it was a good move there.
Yeah, and actually in our pregame, we forgot about one other hire. I don't know. We didn't talk about Charles London last week, did we?
I don't know if we did. I was trying to think of that before.
I don't think we did.
Yeah, so let's just do it. Hey, Charles London, welcome to the Jets. You're our QB coach. And he was last seen as the QB's coach for Seattle.
Yeah, this one I'm like – so this one, I'm like, all right, does this mean that we're definitely keeping Aaron Rodgers around? Because this guy has pretty much no experience taking like an unpolished rookie and like shaping them into something. Like he has no track record of that whatsoever. Again, Geno Smith had how many years in the league, played on all these different teams. Is he the reason that Geno really turned it around? I don't think so. I think Geno just wasn't that bad and then got kind of a bum deal and then kind of bounced around and then finally got his shot and then, rose to his level of above averageness. And that just kind of sat there. And then he was on a good team with a good coach and good situation. And, then he was able to be a serviceable, average to above average QB with flashes of top 10 on certain weeks.
Yeah,
so I don't know if that came from London or not. But I definitely am like very curious about this hire because I'm like, all right, so this is definitely not a guy that we are brought in to train up someone that is new. Is this a guy that we're going to be using to work on getting like a project QB, someone who's already in the league and, a free agent? I don't know. I don't know what we're doing here. I don't know if it's good or bad.
Yeah. Shit, we have more too. Now I'm like really looking at it. I'm really sorry that I didn't prepare you guys for this one, but also, any other comments on that one real quick?
Well, I think I would say like, and just from a high level, London being the quarterback's coach for this team, without knowing a lot about him from his background and things, I think this is my least favorite hire of all of the people that they've brought in. So this one's going to be a question mark for me because I'm just not sure, what he's going to bring to the table as a quarterbacks coach. So he was a former running backs coach. He played running back from what I saw. I'm not very, very high on it, but hopefully I'll be proven wrong.
I would like to be proven wrong. I just kind of like that, just in general, there is experience. Yeah, that's the whole name of the game on this one, right? And even with these next couple hires, which are gonna be on the defensive side, that I didn't prep you guys for. My apologies on that. We were kind of delayed today, guys. But then we also have on the defensive side Eric Washington, right? Who was the D line coach, who's formerly a D coordinator for Chicago. Which is interesting. I mean, that D line was a fucking mess last year, and it shouldn't have been. It was supposed to be per PFF. It was a top D line going into the season, right?
Yeah, and it did not. It's funny. The rest of the team really did well, but the D line did not.
D line did not do well. Correct. Linebackers were good, even with Mosley going down. Sherwood was great, right? And that was a great fill in. And that looks like, and we'll talk about that when the offseason happens, because that's probably a priority number one, at least at a reasonable contract, right? And then I guess DBs were still good, you could talk about how bad people think Sauce was, but it's just misused, I guess, is really the term, right? And also poor safety help.
Yeah, I mean, he's got tackling issues he's got to work on. Sauce, I mean, that's just undeniable.
He got better in the rest of the season, though.
And he got better, and again, but his missed tackle rate was top of the league.
Yeah,
teams were exploiting him. They were.
Yeah, I think with Sauce, I mean, the caliber of Sauce is safety help shouldn't matter, right? He's the
man
best
zone defense, though. It's important to have that coordination, though. But yes, you're right.
He's still, he's still got to be that guy. He's got to make up for other deficiencies. And so, and I think this will be good for him. A new coaching staff can hopefully help get him right. I think speaking of the defensive line, this is kind of another interesting hire, right? An experienced coach that has called plays. Obviously Wilkes has done that a lot, but again, the more experience they can bring in, the better. So I think it'll be an interesting hire. The Bears, his last stint, defense wasn't great, but, I think moving into a defensive line coach role might just kind of give him an area to focus on and put that experience to use. So, again, we'll see.
Washington was their defensive coordinator last year. Is that right? I could be wrong on that.
Yeah, I'm looking at his Wikipedia right now. He was the defensive coordinator and started calling plays this season. And then on January 23rd, 2025, the Bears announced they would not retain Washington for the 2025 season.
Well, Ben Johnson, new staff. I mean, I will say this, though. The Bears defense wasn't terrible last year.
No, it wasn't.
Bears defense is always a threat.
Jalen Johnson, they had some great pieces, but yeah, they definitely shot the bed on that Washington Hail Mary, right?
Yeah, and was that him or was that
after that, right?
Yeah, or was that just luck? You let him do that play 50 more times. How many times they probably get it.
But that's mentally keeping your team together on that.
But I would also, but that's not going to matter as a defensive line coach, right? As much, And I think that, and I think, I think it speaks well to him that when they fired the head coach, the offensive coordinator, they still kept him on, right? They could have got rid of everybody in season. So, I think it can be an interesting hire, but we'll see how it goes.
Yep. And then we got two more on the defensive side real quick. Since we were talking about Sauce, I'll skip the other one for now. But we also hired Chris Harris as the DB coach, which is very interesting because I thought that would have been retained, if anything, right? And originally, and his last gig was defensive passing game coordinator, cornerbacks coach for Tennessee, which is interesting. I mean, I can't really name anything on that defensive side that's that intriguing, right? In terms of a talent wise, right? I mean, although they did have Jamal Adams last year, right? And they didn't really, use him that much. That'd be funny if Jamal Adams.
Yeah, but he's just kind of washed up. He's kind of washed up is really what it is.
Yeah,
Crazy.
he's
It's crazy.
Bad. But I mean, from what I did read about him, the Titans secondary was sneaky good last year, and he was, in charge of, being the passing game coordinator on that side of the ball. So, I think they could have done much worse in that role. I think that, not bringing Tony Oden back, after kind of the regression of Sauce and wasn't able to coach up the safeties, I think it made sense that they moved on from him. So, I've heard nothing but good things about Harris. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm intrigued by this hire.
I think you're right on that one, given that like there was regression there, given the talent was still there, right?
Yeah.
And from what I heard, he was getting interviews to be a DC. Like he was getting DC interview. Yeah. So if he's getting DC interviews, like, that's pretty substantial. He's got the background. He was a safety. I don't love us targeting the Titans so damn much for our coaching pool.
And even GM, if you really think about it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's just too much tied in with the Titans
too.
there. But Vrabel, I listen. He was good because he was Vrabel, but again, Titans. I don't like. They just have kind of a stink on them. They haven't been good in a very long time. So
they were consistently decent, right, for a good stretch of the 2010s. I will say that they were consistently decent. Nothing special, like Mr. 8-8, basically, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, we got one more hire, and this one was interesting because he still had his job with Pittsburgh as their linebackers coach, but he basically just did a lateral, a horizontal move to us, which I thought was very interesting because Pittsburgh has, good pedigree on defense, right? Maybe, Aaron Curry, basically, which but also yet again, like our linebackers, like we're not talking about TJ Watts, right, which is really outside linebacker edge, right? We're talking about like linebackers, like we might have a better set of linebackers to work with, so maybe that's more appealing. And once again, it's always about trying to advance yourself, right? Probably a better opportunity to move on up with Quincy, Sherwood, and maybe still even Mosley as your linebacking group versus, I guess, Patrick Queen, who Baltimore let walk basically, right, over to their division rival. So I think it's interesting. But I mean, like anything Pittsburgh defense, like you gotta like, right?
What does Pittsburgh run? A 4-3?
I think they're a 3-4.
They're a 3-4. So
yeah, I think so.
I mean, so they're a 3-4 because he was an inside linebacker.
Yeah, he was
coach.
the inside line. But I think
this is kind of an upgrade for him slightly to be.
But also I feel like, for him it is, and I think that like also, and I know Aaron Glenn's a defensive guy, right? But if you look at the Steelers, really the only person getting credit for the defense is Tomlin. It's always going to be Tomlin's defense. He's the guy. So you're right. I think moving over to the Jets might increase his profile a little bit, especially if he's coaching guys like, Quincy, and if they bring Sherwood back.
Yeah, he's got some damn good. Yeah, he's got. I was just going to say that too. He's got some damn good pieces to work with.
Yeah.
The Jets defense is talented. Like, we didn't just randomly suck shit at football because we don't have the talent. We sucked because we didn't have the leadership, and the team was deflated, and a bunch of other reasons, and not disciplined, and a bunch of reasons that didn't really have to do with the players being bad. Like Sherwood is not bad. Quincy Williams is not bad. Quinnen Williams is not bad. Sauce is not bad. DJ Reed is not bad. Like, Michael Carter 2 is not bad. Like that's like, that's
hurt a lot.
Half the defense, right off the top of your head is are good players, like objectively good starters on any team in the league. So like, I think it's an attractive job to work with our defense at any capacity, coming from a background like that, especially.
Yeah, I could see a situation where every coach who saw the failure of the New York Jets last year, which is there's no way to fucking coin it, right? It was the biggest like difference of an expectation versus reality, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, I guess as a coach, right, given the opportunity for what is already existing, right, before we talk about what moves we make in the offseason, and we're going to go through two of the hires that we have in the back end of the staff, right? Like, you kind of have to lick your lips on it. Like, even like a quarterback's coach, Charles London, right? You know, it's Aaron Rodgers still, right? The mind of Aaron Rodgers, right? Maybe not the fucking youth.
But we don't know that yet, right? I mean, we
don't know. We don't know that yet, and we'll get into that.
Like, we have no idea.
Right?
Yeah,
right? Or even Tyrod, right? Which is interesting in itself, or even Jordan Travis, right? Because that does exist on the lineup too, and we just haven't been able to see any of it because of that injury, right? But then, like, passing game corner, like you still have Garrett Wilson and Devontae on the fucking roster, right? Which is and Brees, it can come out of the backfield, so that's like super interesting there too, right? Like the defense, like just you basically already went through it, right? Everything is fucking there for that defense to be beyond elite, right? Like, so it better fucking work. Let's just say that, right? There's like no excuse.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, I fucking hope so. Anyway, so let's go to the front office, right? So I guess we'll do, since we're talking about player personnel, Rob Batten as co-director of player personnel, and I think the tag is that he's co-director of player personnel with Moogie, who's GM and also going to have this director role as well, which. Okay. Yeah, I think that's what it is, but I could be dead wrong on that. But that's kind of what the line said.
John, it's actually Peyton with a P.
Yeah, it's Peyton.
Fuck me. All right, let me do this again. Peyton. Batten. Yeah, sorry, I just spelled it wrong. There you go. Ta-da! Sorry.
Which is weird that's Peyton. That looks like Patton or Patan, right?
I think it's Patton.
It should be Patton. But but then there's that other guy named Peyton who spells it Paton.
Well, that's his nephew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is fucking weird.
So it's Peyton or is it Patton?
He's the co.
I think it'd be Patton.
It should be based on how it's spelled, but apparently not.
Patton. Okay. Rob. We'll go with Rob. Rob comes from Denver, correct? He's following Moogie, basically.
Yep.
Okay. I like that because at least like there's a little continuity there in terms of who can make a lot of the big decisions there, right? And also a young guy too, I believe, right? Mm-hmm. They're all really young. I think Wilson and Aaron Glenn are the oldest people on the staff, right?
Yeah, which I think is a good thing, And so my question about our buddy Rob here is, and tell me what you guys think of this. I'm hoping he's excellent. I'm sure he kind of earned his way here, but with a guy like him, with a guy like Scott Turner, like nepotism plays a role a little bit, right? And I'm always a little bit wary, like, did these guys get to where they got to solely because they deserve it? Or like, how many times did dad have to pick up the phone and say, hey man, give my son a shot, right? So I kind of like, or in Rob's case, his uncle, but so I just kind of, not like a massive worry, just something in the back of my mind that like, is this guy the most qualified dude for the job? I don't know sometimes.
No, there's a ton of that in the league. Scott Turner and LaFleur,
saying, right? Like,
and there's all these guys who have been who their dad has been a big shot, and then now they're just kind of riding on the coattails, but they're also making their own way too. So I don't know.
Talk to the Manning brothers about their dad, right?
Yeah, I mean we can also talk to Nat Hackett about his dad. Right, so like it cuts both ways.
The Bosa's and the McCaffreys now.
It does cut both ways, but I think it cuts a little better in favor of if you have that pedigree, you're probably going to be at least decent.
Bronny James is trash. I just want to say that.
I mean that's fair as well, right? There's that.
Yeah, everyone knows it. Dude. I mean, but that's just how it is. I mean, look at Michael Jordan. His son just got arrested for like the story, by the way, is crazy. So
Yeah.
apparently, like, because my buddy's actually down there, I have a lot of people from there. He was like driving his Lambo drunk. This cop tried to pull him over. He zipped off on the cop. He's in a Lambo truck, so obviously no cops catching him. He dusts the cop, but he thinks the cop's still on his ass, and then he like makes a turn down down railroad tracks to try to like on some like Grand Theft Auto shit to try to avoid the wanted level. And he got fucking stuck. And then when he got caught, and then so he had all that time, the cops finally catch up to him, and he still had the coke on him. He still had like cocaine on him, on his person, that he totally could have just gotten rid of. Like, dude. So anyway, long story short is these guys, the apple does fall far from the tree sometimes.
Yeah. But hopefully with Scott Turner and Robbie Boy, it didn't fall too far from the tree. I'm hoping.
To be fair with Turner, he was first hired in the NFL by his dad in Cleveland. It looks like, but
Belichick's son too.
Yeah, but he did play. He did, work.
Yeah, I think Kyle Shanahan also
not his dad even present. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's fair. Just wanted to call that out. That there's something there. But yeah, I think this will be. Familiarity is going to be important, especially for a first-time GM. So I think this is, a smart move to bring him over and put him in this role.
So what I'm going to say is pretty much it goes for, because I know there's probably another hire in the front office that we're going to talk about after this.
Right now?
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. But that one is a little bit more different. But just in general about these front office hires, I just love that we're shaking shit up. Like with the Jets and Adnan, you touched on this today in our conversation, just in our group chat. But I don't know if it was today, but it was recently. The Jets have just had this tendency towards lifers, like these guys that just get entrenched in the front office. It's like maybe they just don't fuck up enough to shake the boat. No one's really on their ass, like analyzing them, like Greg Nashmas. How did he make it 16 friggin' years? There's no way he was good enough to be in that role for 16 years. It's just no one was checking him, and he was just easier to keep around14 David Sochi, 8 years in his role, and then not too. And the Jets have a long history of this, like Terry Bradway, 14 years, as a Jet from GM. And then he's like in this other, like, I think he was player development type role. Other teams don't do that. That's definitely a thing that is very much a Jets thing. Other teams, when the GM goes, they clean house, and they clean house like all through that motherfucker. They don't keep these guys around. There's no guys that last through 3 and 4 different GMs and shit.
Sean Jefferson's the only one that's still around.
Yeah, exactly. And unless you're really, really, prove yourself, like, maybe we need to kind of, look at other options. I don't know, but I'm just saying, like, I like the new blood. I know, like, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater and all the cliches about doing too much change. But you know what? We didn't do enough change last year, and it really hurt us. So let's just go for broke.
Yeah, that's what they need, man. It just needs to be just a complete bloodletting, purge everybody, and because it hasn't worked. So
purge everybody, and then keep an eye on everybody. Like, where are we screwing up? Who's job is that? Okay, boom. Now the eye goes on you. And then just keep it like that, and keep eyes on everybody, man. Like everyone needs to be held accountable. Like we talked about it last year, but accountability really is like keeping that watchful eye, monitoring progress, check-ins, all that stuff. I just don't think that was happening. There's no way it could have been and then the organization underperformed that badly.
Agreed. And then I guess going to Spielman, why not, right? I mean, this is kind of more of a senior advisory role, it seems like, right, to help Moogie, who's relatively new to the game of being this high up in an organization. So I think it's good just to kind of have that, just like with Aaron Glenn, having Wilkes, right, who has coaching experience, somebody has somebody's back a little bit, but I think it's a good hire just to have that there, right?
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it, right? It is having somebody, and it really applies to this front office, like an adult in the room, right? And you trust Moogie, you trust the guys that he's bringing in, but you want them to have a senior guy to kind of, bounce ideas off of and everything. Everything that I've seen is that Spielman's primary job is going to be to revamp, build out, overhaul the entire football operations. And that's something that we were just speaking to, is I don't think the Jets have done that for I don't know how long, if ever, right? This has been kind of a common theme under Woody. Same guys. So I think that's really important. Another interesting thing that I just saw, our friends who we've never met, but really great source of content and information, Play Like a Jet, their Twitter handle, Play Like a Jet 1, they tweeted out that as the Minnesota general manager, Rick Spielman had 12.5% of his picks become Pro Bowlers, which was the fourth highest in the NFL during that time. Two of those Pro Bowlers, Justin Jefferson and Xavier Rhodes, were selected with picks from trades for disgruntled stars, Percy Harvin and Stephon Diggs. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, the exact guy that you want for these young guys to bounce ideas off of. So I think this is a home run move. One other piece of it to add is it sounds like he will be working remotely most of the time, which I think is totally fine because he's just going to be bringing people in and revamping things. So I'm just really, really excited to see what he does in this role and how he just kind of like improves everything across the board.
That was really well done, Adnan. I'll give you credit for that.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
Definitely.
We're about encouragement here. I'm trying to guess. He was GMing what? I guess I'm trying to think of the years, right? 2020.
The Vikings from 2012 to 21.
Okay.
It's a 9-year run, right? That's a good run.
9-year run and the
Pro Bowls. I'm trying to think who would be the top 3 Pro Bowl draftees, I guess, in that group, right?
Justin Jefferson.
No. So Vikings had he had drafted the 4th most Pro Bowlers in that time frame, right?
Oh, yeah.
So well, he hit. It was a 12.5% hit rate for Pro Bowlers.
Yeah, whatever that means, right? So okay, so I'm thinking it had to. The Kansas City probably was in that market.
Oh,
right?
Who the other teams are? Yeah.
I'm just trying to think. Curiosity, right? Probably Dallas is still in there too, if you really think about it, because they do have a lot of
well. Yeah,
they do draft well. Yeah, they just can't coach well.
And they refuse to. I can't believe Schottenheimer's their coach. I'm sorry. Just on a quick tangent. That's insanity.
It's so amazing. I don't know if we talked about it last time, but we were just laughing our asses off on that one.
I don't get it, man.
Watch it work out, though.
Yeah. I think it's, what I think is really interesting. So, we bring in the 33rd team as basically consultants, which is essentially Rick Spielman and Tannenbaum.
Yep.
And we bring them in, and then now he's hired on full time. How did that turn into that? You know what I mean? Because either that means either he really likes what's going on here, or he likes the situation, or Woody really liked him, and Woody's liked him so much, hey, I want you on full time. Blah blah blah. I know you're a consultant.
Tannenbaum, you get the fuck out of here.
Well, it's funny because. It was
how'd that play out?
Him or Tannenbaum, right? Imagine it was. I'm so glad it was Spielman.
Yeah, I'm glad it was Spielman, not Tannenbaum, because Spielman's pedigree is, definitely better. He's got more, he's got more accolades, and I think better records under him.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, I do like it. I think it's another adult in the room, someone with a lot of experience across a lot of teams. He's seen Detroit, he's seen Miami, he's seen, us, he's seen the Vikings, and I really like it.
The video when he was laughing at the Eagles for drafting, was it Jalen Reagor?
Jalen Reagor, and that's when he took Jefferson.
And he was
that's like That's
couldn't
like
have been
the
more
McVay
right.
left Snead video, right? When they were
Imagine.
laughing at Cole Strange. Like,
He drafted Stephon Diggs too.
He did draft
Yeah,
stuff.
and then he
That's the
traded
fourth
just
round pick, and I guess he must have helped pick up Thielen, right? Thielen wasn't drafted, right?
yeah, I believe. Let's see.
Yeah, I think Thielen was too. Anyway, that's interesting.
So yeah, he's got some, you know.
Yeah, this is good. This is good.
He's no dummy when it comes to this. I think that it's a great job to pair. You know, again, and this goes back to what I was saying earlier in this episode is about pairing inexperience with experience. You know, we have Moogie, who is not the most experienced. Like, he's got experience. He was an AGM, whatever, but he's nenever been an actual GM. Well, Spielman has, and he's been a GM at a high level too. And now he's there at beck and call for Moogie to reach out to and be like, hey, what about this? What about this? What about this? Like, that's huge. Like, you got someone whose job it is to basically just make your job easier. Like, I mean, hey, can't do better than that.
I think it's the last coach that hasn't been hired as the running backs coach, because Tony Deuce is no longer with us.
Yeah, which is interesting.
New England, which is interesting. Actually, I have a list of where everyone is now. If you guys want to go through that before we talk about the Rodgers quote.
Yeah, go for it.
So obviously Salah's DC in San Francisco. Ulbrich is DC in Atlanta. Todd Downing is the wide receivers coach in New England, which is a downgrade for him. Tony Deuce made a horizontal move to running backs coach in New England. White Cotton is a D-line coach for Dallas.
Yeah, I saw that.
Interesting. Ruttenberg is now the linebackers coach for Atlanta, and he was our linebackers coach. Odin is now the cornerbacks coach for Tennessee. So it's actually really funny that they just swap positions.
Well, that's interesting. Wow.
That's really interesting. Then Manuel is now the DB's coach for the Giants, and he was the defensive backs coach for us.
Yep. And Keith Carter is still out of a job.
Keith Carter and Hackett are both unemployed where they belong.
I thought Keith Carter. I thought he did okay this year, man, but maybe it was just the talent.
So
anyway,
real quick before we move on, Patrick Surtain is the defensive player of the year. So
he did get wow,
defensive player of the year, which is surprising to me a little bit that a corner would get it.
I mean, he played.
It's been a really long time since a corner guy. Yeah. It's been No, Gilmore. Gilmore was the last one.
Yes, he was really good this year. Though.
And Gilmore,
I
gotta give it to him, man.
But it's just like because really usually DBs don't get it, you know.
True,
so it's crazy that.
But the way he's been playing,
it's usually edge guys because sacks always rack up.
Right.
After that, it's like DTs and linebackers, and then it's DBs and super rarely safeties. Yeah. Like the last safety, you could probably figure out who the last safety Pro Bowler was.
Yeah.
Can you guys figure it out?
Safety. Troy Polamalu?
I believe it was Ed Reed, but I could be wrong.
I was gonna say.
I don't think Polamalu's got a.
I thought he had one.
No, he wasn't deep boy.
I don't think he was a deep boy. Oh, yes, he was. 2010. I think you're
2010.
right.
2010. Okay.
Yeah, very good. Very good.
But
that guy was a beast, man. I would have loved him on the Jets.
But Ed Reed was I know where he would go over the line, like
just didn't care, man.
That was so sick.
Last D tackle was Aaron Donald, of course. Who could be the argument for the greatest D tackle ever.
I think he is.
He probably is.
I think he is, man.
There's actually been a couple safeties in this century that have been deep boys. Ed Reed's the other one, but can anyone name the third safety?
The third safety?
Yeah. And there's been 5 safeties in total that have been deep boys. This one's a fucking I can't believe he got it that year, but Bob Sanders for the Colts.
I would have never got
that year. He had like 200 tackles. Like he was a beast.
Yeah, exactly. And then before that, you're gonna have Easley for Seattle, which is interesting.
What year was that? That was a while ago, right?
Yeah, like 84.
Yeah,
which is amazing given how stacked the defensive talent was.
Did Ronnie Lott never won? Player of the year?
Ronnie Lott?
No,
I don't see him on this list. No. And then obviously we're gonna go Dick Anderson for the 1973 with the Dolphins, which is interesting. Actually, there's and I guess the last linebacker was Luke Kuechly, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what's funny? There's a stat out there that like they were saying like teams have never seen an MVP for their team. If you do, and Jets are obviously one of the 7, but then if you do DPOY or MVP, Jets are like one of 3 franchises that never have anybody.
Which is crazy because our defense is always great.
Revis got fucked, dude. Revis got fucked.
Revis should have been, what was it, the 2009 season?
Yeah,
that should have been his.
That should have been him. That should have been him. All right, so let's go to the Rodgers comments. Since Rodgers, anything Rodgers in our podcast seems to get more views and likes, comments, and subscribes. But basically, Rodgers was asked about his future with the Jets, and he basically made the statement that means nothing. I've talked with the Jets. We'll figure things out when we figure them out. What the fuck does that mean?
It means absolutely nothing. Totally non-committal. I mean, he's speaking to the freaking Golf Channel. Like he wasn't going to drop a bomb to a reporter from the
at the Waste Channel. Management Open, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like it was just he probably would even have said anything under normal circumstances, but I don't know.
I will say something that is interesting. I saw a report earlier today that said the Jets haven't even spoken to Davante Adams at all yet. So I think that's a little bit telling that they've spoken to Rodgers, and haven't really discussed Adams. I don't know if they're going to bring
because
Adams
he's
back
the second. Because I don't know if you can. He is the second biggest cap hit.
I mean, it would have to be
restructure if you do it.
It would have to be a massive restructure like Rodgers, right?
He's
the other thing I would say that with Rodgers specifically, right, and Adams, like you look at this. So 2 things, right? You look at this new regime. Do they want to be restructuring and doing all this and just kicking the cap hit, down the road? That's one way to look at it, right? Like, do they want to accumulate all this, or will they say, let's take our medicine now and then kind of get out from under all this? But then, interestingly enough, Moogie came from Denver. Denver had the highest dead cap hit in NFL history this year, and they made the playoffs. So maybe he's like, hey, I've seen it done before. Dead cap hit doesn't scare me.
And they did it with the rookie. And was it the 6th quarterback off the board or the 5th
quarterback off the board? Yeah, it was the last one.
We like Knicks. I did say I like Knicks.
Listen. Dead cap is not always bad. It's not always the worst thing ever. Like sometimes it is bad. I mean, obviously, like you don't want to be, banking on being the Broncos. You know what I mean? Because but the Jets were just so bad with our dead cap. Like we were using it on guys like we were still paying for guys like Uzama this year, Laken Tomlinson this year. JFM. I mean, JFM, we should have just kept his ass.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that's, so I'm not so mad about him, but and then we were, and it's like we were using that, and then we were using it to get guys like Alan Lazard, and it was just bad management, man. Like shit that should just have never been done, right? So,
well, let's just say this. I mean, basically, having dead cap, it really what that just means is that you have a smaller budget to work with, right?
Right.
And just because you don't have your full budget to get the highest end escort out there, you can still get a $20 hooker.
You should. Oh my god! You should do it when it's appealing. You should do it when it makes sense. So to your uncouth example, it's if the $20 hooker is like a random diamond in the rough, like hottest girl you've ever seen, like that.
Well, I think the other piece of it, though, right, is if you're going to push a dead cap hit further down the road, it should be on a guy like Aaron Rodgers, and it should be on a guy like Davante Adams, right? It should never be on a guy like Laken Tomlinson and things like that. You know what I mean? I think that's kind of the the moral of the story here. So if they're going to do it, those are the guys you do it on, and I don't think anyone would hate it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's going to be a really interesting decision, and it's going to be really, really kind of coming to a head here pretty soon. Super Bowl's on Sunday.
Yeah. I think it's either Rodgers retires or he's a Jet. I don't think he ends up playing for anybody else.
Because I don't think
you would hope so. I can't see him retiring though, like just going out like that. Like
I can't see it
he made this big old hoopla. He came over here, he got hurt, stuck it out, and then had one of the shittiest seasons of his entire career, and then he retires.
He's gonna restructure. He's gonna restructure.
I don't see that.
The other piece of it, right, is with retirement or Jets, I just don't see. Is he gonna go? I mean, the Titans have the first overall pick, so he's not gonna go there. Is he gonna go to the Raiders? I mean, I know Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly are there, but does that really make sense? They only have Brock Bowers, right? Like, you start looking at these teams. I mean,
he's just gonna buy Devontae's house, basically, right?
And then also just look at the Jets too. Like, what are the Jets' options? Like we're not gonna get these top guys. We're not gonna get guys like Cam Ward or Shadur Sanders. Like who are we gonna get? And then who's still available? Justin Fields, the only thing I could say, which is a weird wild card. I don't want him, but I'm just saying Daniel Jones, because everyone wrote off Jared Goff, right? And he was similarly struggling. And the Rams, he was a salary dump. The Rams dumped his ass. And that was the right move for them too, because they ended up immediately winning a Super Bowl, which must have crushed his freaking ego and confidence. But then he comes to the Lions and he's putting up some of his best career numbers. He's having career years every year, and he's leading that team effectively. Now, is he their forever guy there either? Probably not, but he's been good enough. So, maybe the Jets might bring someone like that in. He might be good enough until we, play the game where we're not desperate for once, and we actually bring on a QB who is like a Jordan Love or, someone like that who can actually lead the team to greatness and take us to the next level, similar to what the Kansas City Chiefs did with Alex Smith leading into Pat Mahomes.
Yeah.
Well, I think the one thing I would say about Goff is he did play in a Super Bowl at least, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you look at a guy like Daniel Jones. Yeah, he's won one playoff game. Fair enough. But, I feel like if Rodgers were to retire, I would just roll with Tyrod Taylor. Because I just don't think, you're wasting your time with Fields. Are you going to give Sam Darnold a Baker Mayfield contract? He's not in line for the massive payday, but I think he's in line for a Baker Mayfield type contract. So I don't know, man. If Rodgers doesn't come back, I think they're in for a rough season at quarterback, to be honest.
Yeah, they are.
They were up for it anyway. You know what I mean? You could argue that Art Rodgers at this point in his career is just not there anymore. It doesn't look like he threw the shit out of the ball and he wasn't that great with it.
No, that's fair. But I think, he'll be, more time, removed from the Achilles injury, things of that nature. So I think that, and the offensive line will be better from jump now instead of kind of gelling in the beginning of the season. So I think there is he's their best option.
Yeah, but what worries me with Rodgers is he's not pushing the ball at all, and so that still makes him extremely predictable. If you're not going to push the ball, right? You're not going to push the ball downfield. Teams know how to beat you. They just give you everything underneath until you make a mistake, and then they just eat you up. And they squish you out of the red zone, and they make you kick field goals, and they do all the shit that we had to do again this season. If Rodgers is not going to stretch the field, he doesn't need to be here. and he hasn't been playing well. And that's what I'm saying. It's like, but it's really a rock and a hard place with this Jets quarterback situation. It is not good. I don't envy
the whole draft is not good. I mean, like, I'll just go through the quarterbacks that are in the draft, right?
Yeah.
And where PFF ranks them in this draft overall, right? They have Cam Ward. He's PFF's 17th player.
Yeah.
Okay. Then Sanders is 42, according to them.
Yeah.
I don't think is wrong, right? But he's going to go in the first, right? You got Dylan Gabriel, Oregon, 72.
I'm a fan of his, though.
I'm starting to become a fan of his too. Milrow, 96.
Dude, Milrow was so bad in the Senior Bowl. Like, I want his accuracy issues. Like, they're 10x worse than Josh Allen's were.
Yes,
like, I can't.
They're pretty bad. And then you got Will Howard, Ohio State and champion. Yeah, I know. Same thing. Riley Leonard from Notre Dame.
I can't throw the ball, man.
Throw the ball. And then my boy Jackson Dart.
118,
man. And then Ewers at 132.
Yeah.
Ewers is, I want no part of you. Dude, I'm going to tell you something, man. I bet you Jackson Dart ends up at the end of the first round. If he has a good combine, because these teams are so desperate for quarterbacks, like he'll end up in the top at the end of the first round or maybe early second.
Listen, I mean, every time there's always some guy that's comes out of nowhere and ends up being pretty good.
The Bills drafted E.J. Manuel from Florida State, who is exponentially worse than Jackson Dart is. So you never, and he's QB3 right now. I don't think there's anyone that's going to jump him.
Yeah. It's and actually it's funny. I'm looking at the ADPs basically for Jackson Dart, and obviously they were pretty low. They were like in the 200s before, but then senior week happened and it just shot up.
Yeah. And then he has, like I said, another
opportunity. Higher in the beginning of the year.
Yeah, but that's like Zach.
That made no sense because he was good all year, But
that makes no sense. But I don't like those late shoot ups like that, man.
Same. That was Zach Wilson.
But it's not.
That was Zach Wilson, exactly. Yeah. Like one good year, and then all of a sudden he's the man in a weak quarterback year. Like that just has stay away written all over it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So you guys want to talk about the Super Bowl a little bit?
Sure.
It's Super Bowl week. I mean, this is like, what are you looking forward to eating the most?
Well, listen, let's let Monty's the most excited out of all of us for the Super Bowl. So let's get his take on it.
So what am I looking forward to?
Eating the most.
Wings. That's definitely my go-to football food in general is wings, man. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. I just love good wings. I make some bomb-ass air fryer buffalo wings, and that's my shit. That's kind of my favorite football food for the Super Bowl. So I'm looking forward to that. Not looking forward to freaking watch Kansas City get another layup from the refs or
stop.
I bet on Kansas City just because I know they're gonna fucking win somehow. Although I don't know if you saw what Philadelphia was doing, and Bezos basically boarded up their fulfillment centers basically in Philadelphia. Which could mean two things. One, they're either going to win, or two, they're going to lose because of some ref call, and then everyone in Philadelphia is going to burn the city down.
Yeah, enough with the ref stuff.
Yeah, he knows Philly fans suck. That's why.
Yeah,
they suck.
They're bad fans, man. They're not good fans at all.
They are rough, man. Like listen. It's actually funny because my my boss is a Philly fan, and he's actually a really cool dude. I'm not saying that just because he's my boss, but he's a genuinely cool dude. Very even kill. He gives the Jets props and stuff like that. Wishes us well. Like he's a good dude. But I'm just like, damn, how are you a Philly fan? Because all the other Philly fans I ever met are just like when we went to the game, that was the most shit talking when we went to the Philly Jets home game a year ago, or was that 2 years ago now? 2 years ago now. 2 years ago now. Yeah, with Zach Wilson. They were talking so much shit. I almost knocked out like three of them at various different times.
Remember when we were walking out
and then we won? I was just
the guy with the eagle headgear.
Oh, we were just laying into them.
And I was just like,
Yeah, because you know what? I never go into listen, I give you what you give me, right? And they were just giving us so much shit, just
They were
shoveling it
undefeated going into that game.
because they were undefeated going into that game, and they were beating us for most of the game too. So like second quarter, third quarter, I just had to hear endless from these two douchebag losers in front of us, another three that were behind us that were, they kind of warmed up a little bit, they humbled themselves. But like, Jesus, man, I want to just punch out so many of them. So I was just letting them have it on the way out.
The good news is we do not have to deal with away fans coming to our games anymore because we're not going to them anymore.
No, who the hell would come
they
to
called
our
me
game?
Up the other day, man.
We don't have to deal with home fans coming to our games anymore.
Yeah.
No,
we do go to Philadelphia this year, though. The Jets do.
Yeah.
That's the last place I would ever go to a game is Philadelphia.
An away game is Philly for sure. Yeah, you'd have to give me like security escort plus box.
Yeah, a luxury suite. Like I'm not sitting amongst those people.
Then they'll throw shit at you if you're in the suite. But anyway, final thoughts, babies. Go ahead, Adnan.
Yeah, I think we hit a lot of important points today, and I think the overarching theme of what's happened, since the season has ended is positive. Again, we will use this term, probably for our entire existence as Jet fans. Even if they win 3 Super Bowls in a row, it's always going to be cautiously optimistic, right? And I think we learned our lesson after last season. No matter how good things seem, you just have to go into everything, cautiously. And with that said, I like the hires. I like the new blood in the room. I like the fact that they're bringing in, senior advisors and doing things the right way. It seems like for the most part as well that Woody is staying out of the way, which is very important. A guy like Rick Spielman also kind of demands respect. So I think that is something that can really help mitigate Woody's influence over the football operations. If Woody wants to go and, try to sell season tickets and do all that, fine, go do it. But stay out of the football operations. So all in all, things are going well. Still have a couple of coaching positions to be hired. I think we mentioned it, namely, running backs coach. So we'll see what happens there. And then in about 2 weeks, we're on to the combine. So, free agency, the draft are getting closer and closer. It'll be here before we know it. Like John said, Super Bowl's coming up. So I think, we should at least throw in a quick, prediction here. I'm going to say 24-20 Chiefs. And I think there are going to be a lot of people mad. Don't blame the refs.
Go ahead, Monty.
Yeah, man. So, again, cautiously optimistic has been the name of the game because, in some respects, we've seen this before. The Jets seem to be making all the right moves, and then it goes completely left. But, it does seem to be like we're making the right moves now from a coaching and front office perspective. So that's great. I like the Engstrand hire. I'm still kind of 50-50 on it because it does signal a move towards a more modern offensive scheme. He's got, he's a young guy with, got the Lions influence on him. He's got the, the hopes and dreams and all that, and the piss and vinegar and all the young guy stuff that a young guy brings to that position. But maybe not so great the fact that he's a no-time play caller ever on any other team. So that kind of sucks. So we'll see how that plays out. Rodgers and the QB situation still very, a lot of uncertainty there. I'm still pretty, I'm still pretty shaky and nervous about the Jets quarterback situation. which is pretty much going to define the 2025 season if you think about it. And I don't know what the ideal plan is. Like, this is one of the first times where, like, a lot of the times, like, I usually have a very strong opinion on, like, okay, the Jets should do this or they should do that. You know what I mean? Like, I was very much of the opinion that the Jets should bring in some people to help Woody make these decisions, that they should bring in, an offensive minded coach, stuff like that. I had strong opinions on that stuff. But I don't have a strong opinion one way or another, because either way it could turn out terrible. Either way has a very high level of failure. If the Jets go with Rodgers, we've seen that Rodgers maybe isn't Rodgers anymore, and he also carries a massive cap hit. But then if we go away from Rodgers, like, what's going to happen with Tyrod? What's going to happen with Jordan Travis? What's going to happen with the draft? What I mean? Like, there's not a lot of options there that look great. So, whatever happens, we'll have to just wait and see it out. But I'm definitely a lot more nervous on that. But all in all, again, making the right moves on paper, the Jets tend to win the offseason. So, hopefully we do it again, but for real, and it transfers into regular season success.
Yeah. This week is just a reminder that we've never been in the game, and it hurts every fucking time because I love the Super Bowl. I'm starting to hate it more and more over time because the halftime shows are getting worse and worse. The commercials are not nearly as funny anymore as they used to be, thanks to the fucking PC world that we live in nowadays. Although that might change this time around, who knows? It's just a sour taste because it's like, yeah, we're not here, and we were so hoping for it, right? And I want it so bad, I want it so fucking bad, and it sucks that we're kind of starting all over again. And I don't think, has there ever been a new head coach to ever win a Super Bowl or go to a Super Bowl in his first year? I'm trying to think on that one. We did this once, right? It's not going to be Aaron Glenn. It's just not.
Never know, man, but I doubt it.
Yeah, maybe it was Denver. Is that right? Because Fox got fired, right? After the year after they lost the Super Bowl, right? And then they went back and they won it. Is that right? Maybe. I don't know. But honestly,
George Seifert.
Seifert?
Or George Seifert, yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, right. After Bill Walsh.
Walsh.
It was George Seifert, yeah.
Oh, yeah. But that doesn't really count. Bill Walsh left on his own. He wasn't asked to leave after winning a Super Bowl, right? You know what I mean?
Didn't Barry Switzer win the year after Jimmy Johnson?
No.
Or was it 2 years after that?
Go in the NFC Championship game.
Okay.
Yeah, they didn't. And even then, like, Jimmy left on his own. You know what I mean?
No, totally fair.
Yeah.
After a fire.
You won only 2 Super Bowls in a row. You're fired. That doesn't happen.
Yeah. That's right. There's never been a three-peat. Nope, you're right.
Never been it would have been with Jimmy. But anyway, I think there's going to be a 3-peat this weekend. And I don't want to credit the Chiefs being one of the greatest dynasties ever. But, like, if they do win this, you kind of have to start considering them as one of the greatest dynasties ever. I mean, Patriots is probably still one just because it's 6 and it went over such a long time with those divisions. But, like, for a short time frame, this might be the most. If they win, it might be the most impressive thing.
I mean, 3-peat's never been done.
3-peat's never been done, right? It would have been 4 championships since
in 5 years.
Yeah, 4 and 5 years.
Yeah, in 5 years. Is it really? Yeah, I guess it is.
No,
right?
4 and.
Or is it 6 years?
It's 4 and 6.
4 and 6 years. It'd be 4 and 6 years, which matches the Steelers, right? But 5 appearances.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and 3 in a row. Yeah, that's crazy.
And a 3 in a row.
That's
which is fucking crazy. Yeah, and you know what? As crazy as it sounds, the Chiefs team, like the way they're set up right now, it could still fucking continue after this. I
mean, dude, as long as Reed and Mahomes are there. That's it, man. You can never count, just like Brady and Belichick. Nothing else mattered. As long as they had the 2 of them and built around them. So this could be a while. Win or lose. It's going to be a while.
I like. I like Hopkins getting a touchdown. I like Kelsey getting a touchdown and Barkley. Anyway,
I mean, Kelsey always steps up in these games.
He always steps up in these games. Yeah, he's gonna have a blast.
He's a
he might even get Super Bowl MVP if he really shines. Because you know how the fucking voting is. I mean, it's usually quarterbacks, right? But like, I could just very well see it, and I do not want to see fucking Kelsey and Taylor Swift all over in this fucking game. It's gonna be fucking miserable.
That's the least of your worries. Jesus.
Yeah, whatever. Fuck the Chiefs. Fuck the Eagles. Fire swag.
Laugh through the turbulence. Swag is now live and ready to make you look as good as Aaron Rodgers throwing a deep ball. Click in the bio to find out where to buy it. Get yours today and rep the green and white in style. And remember, wearing this swag doesn't make you look awesome. Actually, it increases our odds of the Jets winning. Well, maybe not, but it can't hurt to say that, right? Made probably from the finest child sweatshops from around the world that we do not endorse but still appreciate. Buy our swag today. We're giving you free content. Now it's time to empty your pockets and buy the stuff you don't need. Don't have a job? Well, you've got a kidney, right? Sell it and buy our swag. See if that's this old lady with a purse? Take her purse and pawn it and use the money to buy our swag. Got some money tucked away for your kid's college fund? Empty the account and buy our swag because your kid is just going to waste that money on a gender studies major anyway. Buy our fucking swag, dude!